Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and this is Thursday, December the 20th. This will be our chart lesson for today. And really what we had here was turned out to be a channel. Really, we spent the majority of the day in this range, and I really thought we were going to come down and test these lows and maybe even these again. Um, but when we just couldn't break below this point, it was pretty obvious that we were probably working a little higher here. And And let me show you this. I've shown you this before, but if you're new, you may not have seen it before. But once you kind of get a range, you can kind of look for that range to be your target if you do indeed break above it. And you can see that range right there, and it might even be that right there. But let's see what this looks like first. Um, that's what I would have been looking at for the range, and then you move it up, and you can see that's exactly what you got right there, pretty much. And then right at the last minute, last 5 minutes or so, we broke higher and went higher. But you can see that usually will be your goal, your target, and you might have even measured this whole thing like so. And let's see if that doesn't give us this. You can see that gets us pretty close to that target. So just a different way, just like you measure the targets um, on the legs, you can do the same thing with the ranges. So just be aware of that. But most of the day was shorts working off this range. Right here we were kind of working down. At this point, it was a downtrend, and we were kind of working down, and you probably should have had a little trend line right down through here like so. And you could see those trades coming off the trend line there. Um, and then actually you could have had a trend line right here, and you can see we broke that and came back and tested it, and then went higher. We didn't really get a retest here. I guess this was an attempt to make a retest, but that's as close as we could get. But that's because we ended up having this trend line, and I didn't really see this trend line here until we made this low, and then I drew that up through there and decided that it was indeed when we retested it there, and it held. And so I didn't get surprised on this failed break lower here. I was ready for it this time, and it's a good thing because you can see it was probably the best trade of the day. Um, and it was worth taking a short here. We'll talk about this in a minute, but it was worth taking a short here because we had these matching highs up through here, which were really right across there for the most part. And you almost always get a pullback to retest that. You got this overlap way up here, a chance to get short on basically what I did was use a limit order right here, but even if you missed that, you still had this nice little inside bar, and it was good, just enough for a scalp. We'll get there in a minute, but I'm going to kind of move through this quickly today. I've got to leave a little bit early. I've got to take my daughter somewhere this afternoon, so I'm going to get out of here early. So I'm going to breeze through these entries real quick. Um, there was actually a long right here that you could have taken as well, but I'm going to go ahead and put a circle there in green. It was a little bit. It was a little bit risky because really at that point our lows were down here, and you can see that's exactly where we got to. But we bounced off of that. But I really thought we were going to come on down, and that's where my line would have was earlier. That's the overnight lows, and that's where you got the most touches across there. And so I was really looking for us to test this. So I missed this long right here. I'll be honest with you. And then I didn't like entering here because we had the little overlap. Would have been a good trade, but because I was busy shorting, I missed that one. So, and this trade came up right after the open, and you should have drawn your trend line probably off those first two bars there, like so. That's the way I had mine, and so we came off that. We tried to go back up, and we couldn't, and so now you kind of get another opportunity to enter right here. Um, Again, I really thought we'd probably drop on down there, and it just kind of got hung up there. But then when you made those other bars, you should have corrected your line like that, and that would have given you this setup. And again, I thought we were going to drop on down there. I really thought we were going to trend lower, but that's why you don't argue with the price action. You go with what it says. And so these were both good short scalps coming off of this price action, working its way down. We're making lower highs and lower lows all the way down here until we finally reversed. And you had a nice reversal bar here. So if you weren't short, if you weren't working these shorts down through here, this was worth going long. And looking back on it, I wish I'd have gone long. And notice that this bar went higher and pulled back and went one tick lower than reverse. So that was a pretty good trade right there. But again, looking at it, you still got some overlap. The trend is down, so we really aren't at the strong support yet. But this was kind of a clue that there was going to be some buying today, and it did. It rallied on out there. So if you saw that one, I meant to put that in green. So if you saw that one, it was an aggressive trade, but it was probably worth considering. And you can, after the fact, it's obvious that it was worth considering. But looking back on it now, if I hadn't been in here having myself convinced we were going lower, I probably would have taken that trade myself. But I didn't take it. Then we had a nice short here. You got your double top. We tested it. We ticked one tick higher. We tested it and turned down. Nice place to go short right there. It was good, just enough for a scalp, and then it bounced again. But then it turns down again, and it gives you a second chance. You really could have gone short below that bar because it's a double top. But it's better to wait and see what this bar is, because a lot of times it'll tick lower and then reverse and close way back up here. So it's my opinion that it's always better to wait on a good setup, and this is a better setup. Where were we? Right here. The bar's a little long, so what I did was I dropped my limit order back up here, right in here, and I got filled, and we went lower, and then it bounced again. But because I did get a better entry, it only went a couple of ticks against me, and really this is your signal bar, so your stop needs to be up here. And we ended up going on down and getting a scalp out of this. No big runners. And again, I didn't have this line in here yet. I was looking at this as being a range, and so I still, once again, I had myself thinking, we're coming down, and so it came back, got my runners, and I didn't get any runners out of any of these trades. I just got scalps out of all of them. So, but then when we started going this overlap here, that's when I went ahead and drew my line up through here, and it fit pretty well, and we were bouncing right there again. So, and we kind of got one leg, pull back, two legs, and plus this is really a trading range right here. So this is a failed break lower. You figure it's going to pull back and test it, and probably, I figured it's probably going to come back and test this high again and then maybe turn down or whatever. But it's worth taking along right here. This is a failed break lower. It's, it's definitely a trading range. This is definitely a tight trading range right here. And all it did was just kind of drop a little bit lower. The range expanded a little bit. But this was a nice long, if you saw this line, and plus the fact that it was a failed breakout. And if you drew this line off these highs right here, you had to be thinking, hey, the trend line's way up there. And if you copy this, it's just a little, and bring it down, you got your lows right there, and you're coming off the low side. So you got to figure you're coming back to the high side. And at this point, I'm starting to lean towards this either being a wedge or maybe a channel. And channel is usually what you're going to see. You don't see many wedges like this. Eventually, prices will get through most of the time. And we're making higher lows all the way up through here. And so that's a good signal that we're probably going to work on up higher. And didn't catch any runners on this one. They were just good enough for a scalp. And then we went back into this stuff, and there's just no real entry. You might have considered going short here, but I decided it wasn't worth it because by that time I'd found this line, and you can see every time we've touched it, we've bounced, and so there's just not much room there. And if you'd have taken that, and that's a nice bearish bar, your chart may have looked a little different, who knows. And it was really tempting, and I almost took it because, I was looking at this. We broke out of it, so I'm looking for a retest, and there's enough room if we're going to make a new low. But you can see we could not make that new low, and we bounced. And so I didn't take that short, even though it would have worked. I was thinking long, and so I went long right here. And this was the trade of the day. Any runners were safe here, and you could have ridden this all the way into the close if you wanted. What I did as soon as we got a touch on, and I started with my line up here. So I was looking for prices to come all the way up here. But I exited once we started chopping around in here. I don't remember which bar it was, but it was somewhere on these two bars right here. And I just moved that down there. And then I got to thinking, we're really close. And you can see that did turn out to be it when you drug it down off of these other closes here. And you can see where we were bouncing off that line, working up through there. And this might have actually just been a little bit flatter of an angle right here, like so. And that does look really good right there. And that's a failed break lie. And the only reason I didn't take this one is because I did have my line up here. And at the time, we hadn't touched it yet. So I was afraid we were just going to kind of pull back and shoot up there real quick. And indeed, we did. You almost had enough to scalp out here, but not quite enough. And then we shot up there. And then once this one touched and we got that little bar, then I felt like it was worth going short. I tried to get short with a limit order. Didn't work out. Easy scalp, and then we bounced again. But by the time we started bouncing here, there's actually a nice long right here. You see we we ticked one tick lower than reversed, closed on the high, but it was like 440 or 450, and we're so close to this high, it wasn't worth risking it, so I didn't take any more trades. I was done. And that was pretty much it for today. Like I said, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this chart today. You should be able to see that that trading range. Doesn't take it's not very hard to find. You find this line right up through here, you clone it, copy it or whatever, and you drag it to the top of the price action, and it fits perfectly. And we did break above that late in the afternoon, but we really spent, as you can see, it's actually almost 1 o'clock before we broke out of there. So we spent the majority of the day in this trading range down here, and the highs were just kind of moving up as we went along. But now, I figured it out about in here around 10:30 when I finally found this trend line right here that it took me a little while. I'm surprised I didn't notice that sooner. But I was just convinced this was a trading range, and sometimes you'll do that to yourself. Don't try to convince yourself that you see something. Just go with what the price action is telling you. When it starts, and you can see how flat that EMA is right there. That is so flat. And generally what will happen is you'll fail out one side, you'll break out one side and fail, and then you'll break out the other side and fail. And you might do that a couple of times before you actually start trending. But the trend, this is definitely an uptrend. It doesn't look like it, but you're making higher lows all up through here. And so the bias was really up. And I was having a hard time convincing myself of that. And I was, as you see, my bias was down all the way. But it was only coming off of these highs for the most part once we bounced here. So, and that's okay, because that's what you do on a range day. You have to sell the highs and buy the lows, and the lows were just moving up. So even though I didn't have this till right in here, I was just moving my lines up and working it around as we go and just slowly moving it up. So, and that's how you do it. And generally you can get to the, you can get to the trades the same way, in a couple of different ways. And when you can find it in more than one way, that just gives the trade more merit. So keep that in mind. And, but there were quite a few entries, but just not many, nothing more than just scalps today, except unless you caught this runner or maybe this runner. And I missed this one because my bias was down, and we had this little trend line working down, and I wasn't paying enough attention. And really, you might have, I never even tried this, but that's probably the trend line right there. And then on that case, you do come back and, you break above it and you come back and test it twice and try to make a new low. and then this trend line just wins out. That's all that is. So, and that's probably pretty close. But needless to say, if you had the if you know if you were looking at this as a trading range, you get there the same. You get the same thing. You get there the same way. So, just always play with your lines. And I probably should have drawn this line right up here, right out of the gate, instead of waiting until 2 hours into the trading day before I finally realized what was going on and while we couldn't break lower. And obviously you can't break lower because the buying's too strong. But if you know this trend line's here, you're ready to buy it each time, and you don't miss this trade right here. And and then you definitely catch this one, because you may not have caught this buy right here, if you hadn't had this line going up through here, because you may not have had the confidence to buy that, depending on how it looks on your chart. So just a couple of things to keep in mind. But anyway, hope you had a good trading day. Tomorrow will be Friday. We'll wrap it up, and it's going to get really weak next week probably. And I'm still going to be trading. The first couple of days I'm probably going to come in. My hours may be odd, and I'm just not sure how long I'm going to trade, because we're going to be going on vacation. I will be taking a week or two off there the last week, and maybe the first few days into the week of January. So, but I'll let you know before I'm gone. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. Hope you had a great trading day. If not, maybe a better one tomorrow, and we'll see you next time.